My name is Michaela and I work as the manager of PhD studies at the Sejtek Masaryk University. I am delighted to see people from various faculties within our university, as well as participants from partner institutions involved in the Twinning project, which serves as the framework for organizing these events. During today's Life After PhD, also known as Career Cafe Live, we will again have the opportunity to explore the diverse career paths available to young scientists. This time we are honored to have Dr. Jakub Stazsak-Jirkovsky as our guest. I kindly request all of you to turn on your cameras so that we can engage face-to-face. Feel free to pose any questions you may have, either by using chat or by virtually raising your hand to ask directly. And today's session will be moderated together with my colleague Katka Ornerová. So now I would like to pass the floor to her, and I wish you all a delightful experience during this event.
Katko, we cannot hear you.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon to Europe and good morning to US. Thank you, Michaela, for your kind introduction. And I am very, very pleased that Jakub accepted the invitation to the Sejtek event, so-called Life After PhD. Jakub is a founder and CEO of the startup company Makavert Pharmaceuticals that was established in Colorado more than 8 years ago. I could speak further, but Jakub's Life After PhD that he, by the way, obtained at the UCT Prague, but I will give the floor to him. Jakub, please share your inspiring story with talented not only doctoral researchers.
Okay, thank you very much, Katka, for the nice introduction. Yes, and thanks for inviting me. It's my pleasure. I'd be very happy to share my life story. Now, let me maybe share the screen first. I've prepared a presentation for you guys. I was trying to make it as interactive as possible, but of course, you know, I'm busy, so I have limited time. So I'm sorry if some of the things are not going to be super accurate, but the key for this was to give as much information as possible to you. So if you have any kind of questions, you know, or something is unclear to you, please reach out to me immediately. We want to make this interactive. Don't, you know, feel like that you'd be interrupting something. That's not the way. Actually, by asking questions or maybe writing it into a chat, you would help this presentation, not the other way around. Okay, so first I thought maybe the easiest would be to give you an outline of what I have done, so that you get a feeling of you know how I got to where I am today, and then I will just go step by step to what I have done in the last, let's say, 20 years or so. Simply because, and I'm not going to give you some details about what you should do or not do, you know, before you decide to do PhD, or when you're doing PhD or after PhD, because, you know, everyone's story is different. So I thought the easiest would be to tell you my story and why I was making certain decisions at a different time. And certainly your story is going to be different, right? So keep that in mind. And I'm not here to boast about, you know, everything that I have done. This is simply to show you what has happened. You know, sometimes I was lucky, sometimes I was not so lucky. And, you know, sometimes I just made a decision, you know, to go somewhere, and, you know, maybe I could have done a different decision, but I did not. So anyway, so to start with the background, you know, my name is, as Katka has said, you know, Jakub Stazsak-Jirkovsky. this is really basic outline of my career. So it started with PhD in physical chemistry in 2007. This was done at the Hayrovsky Institute of the Academy of Sciences of the Czech Republic in Prague. But this was backed by the UCT Prague, right? VŠHT in Czech at that time. After that, I went to the University of Liverpool in the UK for the postdoc, and then also University of Gothenburg. I bundled these together because they were somewhat connected. It was a huge collaborative network that I was part of already during the PhD. And, you know, this is something I wanted to stress here, and I will talk about that later again. This was the key to do and to jumpstart sort of my career this way, so that I had all these connections and that I was part of this European Union funded network, right? And I knew all these people, and because they knew me from the time when I was doing the PhD and I've done some work that they perhaps liked, I got hired, right? And ultimately, this has led to getting the job in the United States at the Argonne National Lab as well. This was in Chicago. I've done some, you know, groundbreaking research there as well, I guess. And ultimately, I have founded the company Makavert Pharmaceuticals in Colorado. At the time, you know, you may ask why Colorado. I guess this is part of this life-work balance story that Katka was asking about, that perhaps I should include this in this talk. And this is a part of it. You know, when I founded this company, I just got $1 million at the beginning, and I could have chosen any place at that time. And I've chosen Colorado because I thought this was a good place to, you know, do business and to raise a family and have some fun along the way. So, okay, so let me just go step by step. Again, you know, I beg you to interrupt me, ask any questions if there is something unclear. Perhaps one more thing to mention here, and I did say that at the beginning, the key part of all this was always networking, right? Collaboration with different people, talking to as many people as you possibly can about science, about something relevant, of course. This is not about spamming randomly people, you know, for no reason, but there was always some kind of meaningful connection. And this is what allowed me in particular to ride along this way. So, okay, so this is the start. This was the PhD work that I have done. There was a lot more work involved, of course, not just this. You know, I've just put this one figure here about some crystals of ruthenium dioxide. This is what I've been working on. This was part of the physical chemistry project, or electrochemistry, if you will. This was intended to use for some potential devices, you know, at some point that would generate like different chemicals, but it was really, I would say, basic fundamental science at that time. But what was key and what I would like to stress, what I thought really helped my career and what I thought was super important, was that it was interdisciplinary. I was working on my own pretty much. I had a good supervisor at the you know, the Hayrovsky Institute, who has spent himself a long time in the US and in Japan before started his own group. I thought this was essential, that he was connected, you know, outside. He was already part of some European networks and so on. You know, this I would advise you. So if you are at the point of your career to decide where to go, this is the key, right? And, you know, interdisciplinary science obviously helped me to touch base on multiple things. And that way I got a huge package of skills that I could then offer later, alongside, obviously, the ability to collaborate with different labs and different scientists from across all Europe, not just Czech Republic, of course, but there were people in, from the UK, there was Netherlands, there was Finland, there was Sweden, there was Spain, there was Germany, Ulm, right? And there was multiple other universities as well as companies, actually. Johnson Matthey from the UK, which is a major industrial player, was involved in this network as well. So that was great help, because then you get the opportunity to talk and to meet people that really make decisions and could hire you, right? So that was the key. All right, so this is how I got the job in Liverpool, right? Because I met a guy called David Schifrin, who was a professor there. He was something that you could call a big shot at that time. Now he's retired and all this, but he's quite famous for what he has done, and I knew that, of course. But the reason why he decided to hire me when he could have chosen from many different people was because he liked some work that I have done, right? And because he met me in person, and he knew what I could do, and that I had all these skills, which was essential for this particular project. He has engaged a company called Solvay. In Belgium. They are the biggest producer of hydrogen peroxide in the world. And they were thinking about maybe developing a novel technology, because I think even still today, hydrogen peroxide is produced in these massive plants. It's very capital intensive. You produce a lot of, you need a lot of solvents that are not super environmentally friendly. And so there was this idea that maybe we can develop a novel technology of how to produce hydrogen peroxide, right? In some smaller plants, let's say, that could be deployed, in places where you need them. But let's say, I don't know, a farm somewhere in Canada, that they need hydrogen peroxide to keep everything sanitary, while not using chlorine, which is not so environmentally friendly. So anyway, so that's what I did. I did the work. It worked. We even brought it to a pilot plant production. This was at the time when I found my passion, really. So that's another thing that I should, and I would like to mention here and stress out, that, along the way, what I thought was the key was to understand of what it is that I truly want. Because if you do that, and if you find your own passion, chances are that you will then become good, because you enjoy of what are you doing, right? And so what I found here is that you really like to do research that can serve certain purpose, really like toward developing a technology, not technology that, let's say, would be happening in 50 or 100 years or something like that, but something that would happen right now. So very, I would say, applied kind of science that at the same time is very good at fundamental level. I think this was the combination that I thought that I found very, very, very rewarding to me, right? Then, okay, next step was the University of Gothenburg. After I finished, this project for Solvay, I've somehow pre-agreed already to move to Sweden. I was also at the time curious about how Sweden looks like and so on. So I'm not sure if this was a good move, but the good news, a good outcome of this was that we were able to put this paper together, which was then published in Journal of American Chemical Society. I'm not sure if you are aware of, importance of these different journals, but the peer-reviewed journals obviously are ranked, right? And it makes a huge difference if you publish some good work that is accepted in some really good or top-notch journal, if you will, right? Because then it will get recognized, and if you then apply for a job, it's gonna get a lot easier for you if you have done something that people will, look at and say, oh, wow, this guy is smart. He or she knows things. It's very important, right? So, and I guess from the University of Gothenburg, we put this a paper together. And this was, by the way, done in collaboration with my old supervisor from PhD in Prague as well. And I have, for the first time, used some calculations, and on computers. I've been using computer modeling to model some reactions as well. So I thought this was cool. And actually, this University of Gothenburg even offered me a professorship at the time, right? But I already wanted to go to United States. That was something that I felt I would want. And I have turned this down, and I went forward and accepted a job in the United States and I was already thinking about maybe starting a company in the US at the time. The position that I've accepted in the United States was still postdoc, actually. So it was lower. Some people were telling me, oh, this is stupid. I mean, you should have stayed there. What have you done? But anyway, that's how I felt. And I have done it. And I wanted to see United States. And I went to Chicago, right? Now, I was part, and I don't know if you are aware, but, there's a system of national labs within the US. They are funded by different agencies, by US government. They're not necessarily owned by US government. They're like independent in a way, but it's something, let's say, in between the university and industry, right? So they're trying to basically bridge the university with more like fundamental research to something like industry that, develops a real product that are close to a point where they could sell something, right? So I thought this was a sweet spot. I have joined a lab that was, again, one of the best in the world at what they were doing. This was part of some huge network sponsored by the US Department of Energy. There were many universities and companies involved in this, right? So this was great because, again, I have to stress how important it was to meet different people and not to just get, it's not just about making connections, I guess. It's not just about making someone believe, oh, Jakub, he's a great guy. I want to be friends with him and also want to do some work with him. It's not just about that. It's about forming real connections and learning about the culture, because every time when I move to a different country, I've learned something new. Guess what? Life is different in the UK than it is in Czech Republic, in Brno, or anywhere in Czech Republic. Life is different in Sweden. And then what I found, life is very different in the United States. This is a different world, okay? It may seem to be similar, and I know that in newspapers and everywhere in the Czech Republic, they make all these connections and comparisons with the US. But quite frankly, after living in this country for 13 years, they are usually far off from reality, okay? This is a different world that is seemingly similar, but it is different. And the only way for you to find out is to come here and see for yourself. And, there are many similarities, but there are also many differences. And to be able to be successful or to do something even, in a different place, you have to learn and you have to have the ability to adapt, right? And that was given to me by being able to talk to all these people. Traveling. I went to Sandia National Lab, right, to do some research with them, to collaborate. I spent there a month. We worked with Northwestern University. That's a top-notch university in Chicago. So we have been collaborating as well. I've worked with MIT. We have written a paper together, right, with people from MIT. We worked with people from UCSF, UC Berkeley. So all this has helped me to really understand and to make all these connections and to see how people react and to learn more about how they think about things and how things are done. Okay, ultimately, I wouldn't say this was ultimate, but one of the collaborations with Northwestern University has resulted in this paper in Nature Materials. I would consider this maybe like a pinnacle of my academic career, if you will. But it's more symbolic, really. It's when you do research, and you're at the university, you always try to, let's say, maybe we can publish a paper in Science or Nature. This is like a top notch. This is the best recognition that we could possibly get, and it is true to some extent. But let me tell you how I felt. Okay, I said, okay, great, we have achieved this, and then I felt like, okay, so I've climbed this Mount Everest. Now I look around and well, it's great, but let me not do it again. I just didn't see much benefit of doing this, because then I realized also, after doing all of this, that the academic work is really about publishing this paper. And then, when I asked my supervisor at that time, for instance, what's the next step? He said, oh, great. So let's write, grant about something else, and let's do this again. And again, the goal is to publish something in Science or Nature. And I said, okay, well, this is, and I understood again at that time that this is really not my cup of tea. This is not what I want to do. I want to develop something real, some real technology that would be used by somebody, and so on. And I just realized that academic work is not really set this way. This is not to say, I don't want to talk it down too much, because I know there is many professors in academia who are trying to do it, but the whole environment is not really set preferentially in that direction, right? So you always will be rewarded more if you follow this path that I've just described. So, write a grant, do some research, publish a paper, and then repeat and repeat and repeat. And that's it. That's all you need to do. And you have to be really good at that. If you want to do something more, like let's say founding a company, and then you do it on the side, pretty much in your free time, and the academia is not going to reward you. They will look at you like, well, what is he doing? He's trying to make some money or something. What the hell? I mean, let's not talk to him. You're not going to be appreciated for that. That was what I found. Anyway, that's why I have founded the company called Macavert, and I moved to Colorado in 2015. This is in total, right? I told you that at the beginning I just got 1 million, but then over time it accumulated. So we have raised in about $9 million over the years from private investors. We got some grants as well. I had to build a lab, research lab, and a team as well to do all this work. Of course, this company was focused on development of oncology therapeutics. So there was a lot of biology involved in this. And I did not have much experience about biology myself. So that's why I had to assemble a team that would bring this different expertise on board as well. And obviously over the years, I've learned about biology a lot myself. But I thought that, for instance, the involvement at the Argonne Nation Lab with all these different teams, cross-cutting, multiple sciences, really has helped me to understand how all this work and how you could lead teams that work on that have different expertise. I was at some point leading a team of there was 10 people full-time, out of which 6 had PhD, and everyone was in a different direction. Some are biologists, some are chemists, analytical chemists, and so on, right? Now, this was the project that I was working on at the beginning, and when you look at this, it may seem like exciting, which it is, right? So we have developed this immunomodulating agent. We have discovered a phospholipid that activates immune system, right, and has some anti-cancer properties as well. So this is a confirmation that we see, some efficacy, and I don't know how much you know about. I take it that maybe scientific expertise of some of you is not so deep yet, but I can tell you this picture on the left shows that there is efficacy against human tumors in animals, which is great, right? This is high statistical significance and all these things. That's perfect. It has all these bells and whistles, right? On top, we have found that this phospholipid also activates natural killer cells of the immune system. Another cool thing, this is for the first time that a molecule like a phospholipid was discovered to do this. Great, right? Unfortunately, it does that via unknown mechanism. The only known mechanism that has been described for this compound from Boehringer Ingelheim called BA1347. As you see, I mean, it's doing very similar things, but we have found also that our molecule is not doing it the same way. So in other words, it's a different molecular mechanism of action, and that was the killer, right? So that's why we could not continue developing this project any further, because it is a big problem for, industrial development of a novel drug. No, it's not. It doesn't mean that it could never become a drug. You cannot make a drug in this direction. It's just that it would require so much more research, in the lab, that we could not possibly do within a company. So we had to abandon this project, right? So I want to give you the sense of what it means when you actually make this decision and go into industry. You have to make then decisions like this. And while you might have some results that from the academic perspective look outstanding, or novel discovery, great. But yeah, is it enough? Can I make a product within, reasonable time for reasonable cost? That will be the question that you will have to ask and answer. And if the answer is, well, it's going to take 10 years and I don't know how much money, then you cannot keep developing it. And this is what happened to us, right? So that's why we had to rebrand or change direction. We had a backup already at the time. We were building a pipeline of products, right? Because we knew that this was risky, what we did, of course. And so since then, we are MACAVERT focusing on precision therapeutics, and we have licensed a portfolio of patents from the University of Colorado, and we are focused on RAL GTPase, which is a novel target that is targeted against cancer with specific mutation called KRAS. And it can stop metastasis, which is big deal. This is the biggest killer of all cancer, death causes. Now, just a little bit about this. Again, I don't want to deep dive into science. This is really just to give you a general sense of what we do. The main point I wanted to make here is that this was well described from the scientific perspective, which is obviously what we were looking for. This came out of the collaboration with Dan Teodorescu, who was cancer center director at the University of Colorado at that time. He has published this paper in Nature about the RAL and its potential of use against KRAS cancer. It was well described scientifically, and we started to work on this, right? Again, the main novelty of this is that this was a different target against something that is very difficult to treat in cancer, KRAS, something like 30% of all cancers, and it's also something that can stop metastasis, the biggest killer in cancer. Okay, so far we got these results. This is just a short summary, right? So you see that we work with mice. We show that we have developed a lead molecule, right? So we have wiggled down all, hundreds of molecules, and we have picked one that was best. Then we have tested that this is a specific model for metastasis, right, where you implant pieces of cancer directly on the pancreas of mice, and that way you create a realistic model, something that resembles of what is really happening in your body when you get cancer, right? Pancreatic cancer in this case. And this has confirmed that really this molecule that we have stops metastasis as expected. So cool, right? Great result. We have also confirmed that this way of the treatment can go across the board, which is a big deal, because KRAS further divides into something that you call mutations, right? So it divides into smaller fractions called G12C, G12V, and G12D. That's another big advantage, because other therapeutics in this space don't have this ability, right? They are targeted, let's say, only against one, not all of them. So we can do metastasis and multiple of these mutations as well. So that was a big deal. Then you show to the investors, okay, we can do this. This is all the directions that we could take in KRAS, right? Different indications, different mutations. We can go this way, G12V, there is a competition all over the place, right? But we fit in and we can collaborate with everyone too, and we can stop metastasis and save some people's lives, right? So that's what you say. And then, you know, there is this amazing team, you know, myself, Neil Goodwin, right? He has founded Sera Oncology that just sold to GSK for $2 billion, right? 2 years ago. Great. Now he is the CSO. He's leading all this. He has been developing therapeutics in oncology space for 20 years. A lot of experience, right? There is Gavin Maitland. He's looking at our finances, right? He's got a lot of experience. PricewaterhouseCoopers, right? Big Four. There is Greg Micknes. He has been working for Array for a long time. Array has sold to Pfizer for $10 billion in 2018. He knows what we are doing, right? He is leading the lead optimization of our RAL inhibitors. All this is supported by scientific advisory board. Norm Greenberg, he has founded, he's been working for multiple companies that made IPOs. He is a big shot. He's got a lot of experience, not just from academia, but from industry as well. David Brodigan, he is academic founder of RAL, as well as Dan Teodorescu, the former Cancer Center director at the University of Colorado. And today he's at Cedars-Sinai, which is one of the big hospitals in Los Angeles. This is where, you know, David Beckham is going when something is, you know, wrong with his leg or something. And they have Steven Spielberg on their board. I mean, they're curing all these people, right? Those are big shots. That's what you have to show. And you have to assemble a team like this to do something like what we do, right? So this is just to give you a flavor of what it is and what you can do with collaboration through talking to people and so on. Is this going to be success? I don't know, but you know, this is the journey ahead of us, right? The goal that you have to show is that, okay, what we are doing, there is an interest from big pharma players, Roche, Amgen, Pfizer, AbbVie. Potentially, if we make it work, they would want our drug and they would purchase this company for billions of dollars eventually, right? But first, we have to show this in clinical trials. We have to reach something that you call clinical proof of concept, right? Only then this will come to fruition. Before that, it's like, well, maybe it may work. You know, nobody really knows. We just have to try. And there is a big chance of failure in oncology in particular, right? Most drugs that go into clinical trials actually fail. So there's a high risk. This project is what you call high risk, high reward, right? So that's what we do. This is, you know, some comps. Let's say, oh, many companies before us did it. Look, all these companies, when they have reached their clinical proof of concept, this is what they were worth, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Invest in us, then you also will be worth that much money. That's what you say. If you take a little further, you can have even, 100 times return of investment of your money today in 2028. This is in 5 years, in no time, but there is high risk. Will Makavert get more funding? Nobody knows. But all I know is this is a cool project and that deserves it, okay? It is high risk, high reward. And that's all I really wanted to tell you. And I wanted to show you the grit. I mean, what you have to do to even be able to try to aspire to make something like this happen, and what it feels and what it is like. What is next for me? There are some other projects on the horizon as well. Of course, I'm trying to think about always behind, what is behind a corner, what is behind that hill. And of course, there's always multitude of opportunities out there. And I just want to say that I'm extremely grateful for being able to, to make it to all these different places and the United States. I mean, this is a country where things that seemed to me impossible when I was back in Czech Republic, all of a sudden are possible. Maybe it's me that I just have more experience and have done all these things, but it's also about the environment, I think. And if you see people around you do things and not being afraid of try something new, it inspires you. And I thought this was very important to me. Last but not least, I wanted also to express, endless gratitude to my family. Without them, I would never be able to get where I am. This was a big part of the journey, even though they did not appear on any of those slides, but they were there, okay? Again, I guess this comes back to this life-work balance, that is in question. To me, frankly, I don't understand this division. To me, my work is my life, and I have everything entangled. But the truth is that besides of all this, amazing research, there is this family in the background without whom I would not be able to do any of this. That's why I have chosen to go to Colorado. That's why we have climbed, with my family for dinner. This is like 4,200 something meters mountain, right? That we climb together with these little kids as well. We are biking together, we ski together, we do whatever we can to have some fun along the way. And without them, I would not be able to do any of this. So yeah, in the end, I hope I was able to get you the sense of how my career so far, and especially the things that I have done with research and Makavert and all this, was really a roller coaster ride, and still is. But I like it. I would not change a thing looking back. I really would not. And most importantly, I don't think I'd be able to get where I am without the PhD that I got back in the Czech Republic. It's a certain validation for many people, and it is especially important for us who come from a place like Czech Republic, because believe it or not, the recognition of the education that you get within Czech Republic is going to be less. The PhD will give it more validation. Especially if you do some research, because it's not only about the paper. Oh, I have PhD, but you will write papers. You will collaborate with people. It will open the door to you, as it did for me. Obviously the times have changed. I think it's a lot better today than it was, let's say, 15 years ago when I finished the PhD. But still, I think I cannot really say anything bad about this, and this was definitely a very good life choice that I made to do the PhD in the first place. And then, of course, don't forget your family. Without family and have some kind of background support and I would say even reason to live, really, because if you just lock yourself up somewhere in the lab doing research, you will likely get crazy. It's not sustainable. Okay, so don't do that, please. And don't forget to network. I have to say that I remember actually there was one guy in Liverpool who took a postdoc back in Brno. This was in 2008 or 9, I believe. And then this was with, I don't have to give any names, but he was complaining that no one was talking to him. Okay. This guy, though, then ended up, he's like he was then working at Oxford, working in Johnson Matthey, and so on. There was this opportunity right there in Brno. This guy was fun. Having beer with him was fun, okay? And no one wanted to take it. Don't be ridiculous. Look around and keep your eyes open. Opportunities out there. You just have to look and take it. So I don't know. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm not sure if I have touched base on everything, Katka, that you wanted,
yeah,
but this is open for discussion, I guess, now.
Thank you very much for your story. I would like just now to encourage all of the participants to put questions into the chat or just raise the hands. And this is a really unique opportunity for you to ask and to exchange some opinion note with Jakub. Maybe I will start. Maybe you need more time or something like this. So, science. What was your personal motivation to enter a career in science?
Right. Oh, what a question. So I guess I just did like the work. When I was like doing this diploma work, I mean, it was not great, but I kind of started to like it. And also I went to Exeter in the UK for some months when I was still at the grad school. And then I've done some other research there too, which was also not great, but I kind of figured out that this is what I like to do. And yes, I wanted to travel. I wanted to go abroad, and I knew that, or I felt at that time, I didn't know it, but I felt that it will open door for me to get, a job easily wherever I wanted, in the West somewhere. That's what I wanted to do. And that's why I did the research, and I was good at that, I guess. And it worked.
Perfect. What was the most difficult moment during your career path that you mentioned?
It's like I said,
PhD,
roller coaster.
postdoc, or just now during you are the CEO, so.
There was always a lot of stress involved, and it was the roller coaster, right? So how do you judge, which one of those hoops and jumps is more difficult than the other? It's hard to know. But yeah, certainly I can name a few hard points. Yes, this crossroads where when I got the offer, I could have become the assistant professor at the University of Gothenburg, right, which is a major university in Europe. This is a position that many people that do PhD are longing to get, right? This is something you aspire to. I mean, there's many people who just, that's all they want, and many don't, actually. And so, yeah, many people would say I was crazy to turn it down at that time. It was a hard decision to make. go to the US. This you know, like I said, family was very important to me. My wife didn't like it, you know. She said, and at the time my first baby was born, and
Yeah, I can imagine that it had to be a very tough time. Anyway, any questions in our chat? Guys, go ahead.
Maybe I can have one question. Do you have any tips how to maintain work-life balance during your PhD or career?
Right. Like I said, it's to me, I don't even have this kind of division, you know, what is work and what is life. To me, it's the same thing. It's entangled, right? But yeah, I do think that you need to, you know, like I said, being locked up in the lab and just reading some research papers over and over and not doing anything else, I don't think it's good for your mental health, and I don't think it's sustainable, and you would burn out sooner or later. And yeah, and you will not be very good scientist that way either. So I do believe that you have to, I don't know, I do a lot of sports, for instance. And yes, I enjoy being in Colorado because yeah, I can, any weekend, I can go to the mountains and I can ski, I can bike, I can do whatever I want. I just spent a week in Utah, you know, and Arizona to hike. We went to Grand Canyon. I went down to the river and up within one day, 20 miles, 1,500 meters elevation change, right? Great. Many people die doing this, but I did not. I survived, and it was fun. So yeah, I encourage everyone to do research, but then at the same time think about some other things too. Yeah.
Thank you.
So do you plan to hire any talented researcher?
Yeah, we are always, you know, on the lookout for talent, but you know, at this time we are waiting for funding, right? So we cannot really hire anyone now, but who knows? Tomorrow might be different, right?
What do you think that is essential for any scientist to get the positions in your company?
Oh, so we are always, yeah, those are good questions. Yeah, this is perhaps something that I haven't even covered in my talk that much. So for our company, and I think this applies to any company, you always look for some specific skill, okay? Because you need to do something specific. So if, for instance, I want to expand our research in the lab on RAL, you know, some precision medicine. So what is it that I need? I need someone who has some proficiency with CRISPR, for instance, right? Gene editing. But then we are also purchasing a lot of things from other companies that do provide these services. So this is just to give you a contrast, right? So for instance, from Horizon, we could purchase multiple cell lines that have been gene edited and they're ready to be used, right? So all we have to do is to just basically purchase that. So then perhaps we would need someone who would just test these cell lines as they are being purchased from Horizon. But then of course, this person has to understand, you know, what it means that you have, let's say, different KRAS mutations and how you can engineer different, you know, cell lines with different KRAS mutations, for instance, and then to test them, then to run animal studies. You know, what does it mean? Have you done it in the past? What is your experience in this direction? And every company will have a different set of skills that they're looking for. But I do believe that, for instance, you know, precision medicine is one of those directions that people are going into. I've been just talking to a guy actually who's here in Boulder who did his PhD at UOHAB like 6 years ago or something. And yeah, he said that that this is amazing that when he was back in Czech Republic, he was doing all these things, you know, like CRISPR, and everything was done in hand, you know, in the lab. Whereas here, even at the university, the tendency is to, if you can purchase, you just do it because there's more money. But then I thought, and he thought that too, that, you know, gaining some more experience in this regard and being able to actually do it, you learn a little more. Maybe your knowledge is a little more extensive than of those that just, you know, purchase things and then just put, you know, a few cells in the machine or send it somewhere to some CRO that will do the tests for them. But work in industry is that way. In the research lab, it's a little different at the university. So yeah, it's hard to know, but just do something relevant and just look out of what is being done, not just by, you know, your neighbor in the next lab, but, you know, what does, I don't know, Roche work on? What do Pfizer's of this world work on? Are you moving in the same or similar direction in some way? Did you understand any of those things that I have mentioned, you know? Because if you do, the chances are you will get hired. And, you know, one more thing to this. So one interesting thing that I found was that, you know, we have been obviously building a team and we were hiring, and we wanted the best talent, of course. And I knew that we could not compete, you know, with some big players, like big pharmaceutical companies, for instance. You know, why would you want to work for Macabre that has 5 people and, you know, uncertainty of funds and so on, if you can work for somebody big and, you know, who wouldn't have any problems, and then perhaps people would even appreciate that you got this job and all this. So I was able to hire people that were at the level of postdoc. Why? Because they struggled to find a job and they were good. After they gained experience with us for, you know, a few years, you know, one of them is today working for a company that is 100% owned by Roche, okay? The other one, Agilent. And I can keep going. There's multiple other companies. So we have jump-started careers of many of these postdocs that were struggling. You know, what does it tell you? It's the experience. As long as you keep, you know, just in the lab somewhere at the university, it may not be enough to get hired by industry, for instance. You need something more. You need some collaboration with with industrial partners, for instance, or get hired by a startup even, anywhere, to get just a little bit of experience at industrial level, because it is, again, a different world. If you try to get a job in the US, it's going to be extremely hard. Without a direct reference and some kind of recommendation, I would say almost impossible. Yeah. There is this way of, you can get a grant, right? So there's something like a Fulbright, I think, foundation that offers this for the US. But then I'd be careful about that, because, you know, if you find your own money and your own funding, there is this danger that you will end up in a, you know, in a big lab of some big shot researcher, sure, but, you know, you will be like one of 20, and the chances are that the time that this person will spend with you will be very limited. They will take you because you have your own money, you don't cost them nothing, but it's then hard to do anything. And having this experience at the postdoc level without, you know, having PhD from some place like Stanford or Harvard would not necessarily, you know, land you at a job. You have to do something extraordinary, and you have to have experience. But the experience, even at a startup like us, was enough for, you know, a guy called Mani Kandasamy, who I think got his PhD from, I think it was Mumbai, from India. And he was working in National Jewish, he was postdocing for years, he could not find a job, and he tried. After he was working for us, he got the relevant experience, perhaps he was working for right people, but we are a small company, you know, unknown, and now he is working for Roche. So there are ways, but it's
Yeah.
but it's not easy. I hope that this helped.
Definitely. Thank you for all your tips. We have the questions in chat. Is nowadays being interdisciplinary, for example, biology plus IT, more important than being a specialist in the very specific field from your point of view? It's a question from Thomas Gibel. Thank you for it, Thomas.
Yeah, thank you for this question. This is a good one. So I'm always, you know, since the beginning, I said interdisciplinary approach was always my choice. I think it's very important because you never know what's the next big thing. And now artificial intelligence is obviously gaining a lot of traction. There is obviously, as everything, there is danger, especially in biology. There's many companies that say, oh, this AI will now help us to develop many more novel treatments and all this, and it's going to solve all the problems, which I don't really necessarily believe in that much. But, you know, if it helps the company to raise more money or get some recognition by investors, why not? And these companies certainly need someone who, you know, is, let's say, something called data scientist, or someone who understands biology and AI, you know, machine learning and so on. And I believe that AI has a lot of future in it, for sure. So yes, anything, if you can get your hands on this and some more experience in machine learning, absolutely, you know, by all means, take it. There's going to be a lot of growth in this sector for sure.
Thomas, hopefully you are fine with this answer. Unfortunately, the time is running. Yeah, we have already 1 hour behind us. So if you have any other questions, please write to the chat. Yeah, Aja.
Hello. Sorry, I'm trying to turn on my camera, but it's not working. So
it's fine, don't worry.
Sorry. If we could go back to the postdoc topic that you were discussing. Right now, when you have more experience and more stuff behind you, do you think it's better to look for the job after PhD or take a postdoc, learn more stuff, and then maybe if you are not satisfied with the scientific field in academia, transfer into the industry? What do you think is better, like with your experience and with your knowledge right now?
Oh, this is a tough question. So it's complex. The answer is going to be complex, and I hope I will not make it confusing. So look, I mean, there's multiple different perspectives on this, right? So the question is then, where do you want to get your job, right? Are you happy with just accepting some industrial job, let's say within Czech Republic, or you want to go somewhere else?
Somewhere else, definitely.
Right. Then you will have PhD from Czech Republic, and then without having direct experience in the country where you want to go might be hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so but there is a caveat. I mean, the problem is that the postdoc is being seen, or historically it has been some kind of bridge for the academic career, right? You finish the PhD, then you do the postdoc, and then you are trying to land some kind of teaching position at the university, you know, become a professor, something like this. That's how it has been done. They will at a postdoc, you will be like a kind of a cheap labor, you know, that, but the advantage is that you will have all your time and you could do you can produce a lot of research. So if you do research in the right direction and it's like applied science, and you are in the right spot, something that would be recognizable by your future employer, I think it's way to go. I got an offer from Energizer, for instance, once when I was giving a talk somewhere in San Francisco at some conference when I was at Argonne, and I was approached by a guy. He was head of research and development there, and he told me to apply at that time. And this was after I gave, a scientific talk. And he told me, oh, a real scientist, we need real scientists, call me. But this is not, I don't know, I never called. Okay, I gave this contact to somebody else. And then I know that they just, and this guy was from Canada, and all they asked was, do you have a green card, And he said, no, and we are not interested, So it's like, and chances are that the same thing would have happened to me. So it's tough. And, but yeah, I think if you do good research and you're in the right spot, it can help. And so I would definitely, if you want to go abroad, I think you need to get a postdoc at some good place, but beware of places that are just way too much fundamental, something that is not going to be applicable by the future employer of yours. And also be prepared that they will not recognize the work that you do as postdoc as a relevant industrial experience yet. You need to gain it, right? From their view, year at some place like, I don't know, Makavert, for instance, or Pfizer or whatever is worth a lot more than your PhD or any year as a postdoc. That's just how it is.
Okay. Thank you very much for your answer. I mean, because usually you hear, oh, when you do postdoc, you have no chance in industry. That's just a waste of time. No one is interested in you. And then on the other hand, you're like, okay, but if you want to go abroad, you have to do postdoc. So usually I'm very confused with all of the information and
just depends what you do. I mean, look, so at Argonne, for instance, I mean, Nation Lab in the US, if you can get the job, is halfway between the industry and academia, but the industry would still view it like, oh, who knows what this person was doing, probably just reading some stupid papers all day long and not doing the real industrial work. I don't know what they are thinking, but looking back, so I've met obviously a lot of Europeans there. There was one postdoc who came there, and he was on this really splendidly paid Marie Curie fellowship. And this was between Urbana-Champaign and University of Leiden. And he was spending his time at Argonne Nation Lab. And then he landed a job in Nuremberg at Erlangen. But this was still academia, but today he works at Exxon. So it's definitely possible, but you have to be at the right spot and, high enough level, and then, yeah, you can get hired.
Okay.
And especially if you are from the Czech Republic, I think it's very hard. All these talks, they are probably applicable for someone who has, papers from Stanford. You'd get hired with that paperwork. They just don't even talk to you. They would just hire you right away. Right? But you don't have those papers. And so that's the hurdle that you need to overcome. And the only way to do it is to do really great work. And you have to do a lot more than all these other people that have, I don't know, been studying at Oxford.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And good luck.
Thank you. I think that it's time to finish. So I will thank you once again, Jakub, and I will give the floor to Michaela.
Yeah, thank you, Jakub, for your inspiring talk. Thank you, Katka, and all participants for their questions. And before we conclude this event, I would like to invite you to follow our SATEC website or newsletter for updates on our next session of Life After PhD. And furthermore, I kindly request to fill out the questionnaire that you will receive by email. There are only 3 questions, and it will help us to improve this event in the future. So thank you all. Have a lovely rest of the day, and I look forward to seeing you some next time.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks
Bye
for having me. It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
And good luck to everyone, okay? Okay, bye now.